Hey, can I ask you something? How do you guys feel about this whole um elephant in the room about the it being recorded? I mean, is it kind of strange for you? Is there fear behind that? Now that we've done a session, I'm saying, how's that feeling?
Yeah, it definitely brought it to light when Jenny sent me the link and seeing me on screen.
Yeah.
It scared the shit out of me, and honestly, it brought up like I guess I have a fear of public speaking or being in
Hmm.
public, or taking up space or light shining on me.
Yeah.
Um, it was uncomfortable to hear my voice, to see me talk. Definitely, yeah.
I'm not that popular, so the light shining on you isn't that bright. Maybe it's just a little light, hopefully.
Yeah,
But no, I applaud your courage, and hopefully, if you do follow me and you're seeing, because there's so many couples doing this, if you're seeing other couples doing it, it'll make you feel like you're not just the only one. Hopefully,
totally.
yeah,
The big reason why I did agree to it, because Jenny sent me the link that you when you proposed it, it was I really liked the part about helping others. You
yeah,
know, our story
yeah.
will help others; it will resonate with others, and that is yeah. It's a big part of my practice to be vulnerable, even though
Hmm.
like I feel I'm not in a lot of ways, but in being vulnerable, I see the strength in it and the way it can help others. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
thank you for that. You know, we there's no relationship that's the same, and we all have different struggles in every relationship. But there's also so many common threads. We can relate to so many things. I'm sure if you guys have watched other couples or listened to, actually the podcasts aren't out yet, but there's no way you can't relate to something, that other couples are going through as well. So that is very helpful. Thank you. I've also decided to do, so I think two per couple is kind of where I'm going to cap it just due to time. I mean, I just can't go on forever just because
yeah.
it's they're stacking on top of each other. So just letting you guys know. But I also don't want to waste any more time. What was the homework like? So I saw you guys a week ago, and what's different? Any revelations? What's happening?
It was harder than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like if you're gonna choose to do therapy with your partner and you're willing to sort of excavate what's beneath the surface,
Mm-hmm.
then there's a missing part that you don't always realize until you're in the work, that it
Mm.
opens up more wounds that
Yes.
tend
And
to
so,
surface.
what did it open up? Thank you for saying that. That's correct. That's
Um,
the experience usually.
just that we're so human, and that even if you get clear direction, it isn't as easy as the instruction sounds,
Mm.
because we have our own shit
Yeah.
individually and together. And so I found it a lot harder. Like the assignment you gave us was, Sean, how can you show Jenny that she can feel more seen and heard and
Right.
supported? And mine was to show Sean how much I appreciate him
Mm-hmm.
in our day to day. And it was not easy, not
What
for
were
me.
the wounds as you were trying to do that? What were the blockers? What were the barriers? What came up that made that difficult for you?
Do you want to go, or do you want me to go?
Well, for me, it was just like I don't know, like patterning that is just hard to consciously just snap and break within a
Mm-hmm.
week. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Found I was constantly just doing the same thing. Yeah, I might have gotten there, but she was really quick to let me know that I didn't get there in time. So
Mm-hmm. Which makes
yeah,
it harder for you, of course, when she is
totally.
holding up
Yeah,
scorecards. Yeah,
yeah, in a sense, yeah. So and then I felt like deflated and dejected because I'm like
sure.
really fucking this up. I'm failing with my homework
Mm.
kind of thing. Yeah, that was my experience.
Jenny, did you pass the baton to Sean because you're thinking about what you want to say, or are you afraid to say what you want to say because of all the reasons?
No,
What was hard for you?
I'm not afraid to say what I want to say, but you said scorekeeping earlier, and whether or not I was aware it's a form of that, the assignment was to be in this practice of showing up for each other
Yeah.
in our own individual way. And I'm a huge proponent of, we are not mind readers. So if the behavior continues to be as such that it isn't serving us, then
Hmm.
I'm not going to hesitate to call him out, but not like to point the finger, but just to be
Hmm.
like, babe, that's still coming up. And like, I'm
Sure.
still feeling the same as we did when the session began. And like, it's just really uncomfortable. Nobody wants to be told that they're fucking up, which I wouldn't call it that, what
Mhm.
Sean says. But like, if you're not willing to be in the practice of naming it, how can you shift it? That's my belief, right? And I'm more comfortable with that discomfort than Sean is.
Yeah.
And
What
I,
can you specifically give me an example of just so I know that what happened that was hard, and what did you call him out on? Like, what did he do
yeah,
that didn't meet the bar?
just like the simple act of saying hi to me first, like acknowledging my presence in the room.
Mm,
Like he'll say hi to the kids with
mm-hmm.
full joy and love, and it's
Oh,
like
got it.
sometimes he won't even acknowledge that I'm there. And this comes, to be fair, it comes after a night of like pure exhaustion where I've been up breastfeeding, my body's contorted because I'm sleeping
Yeah.
with the kids,
Yeah.
and it feels nice to be greeted. Like
Of course.
I see you, good morning, and like in Sean's words, he hadn't been in the room yet for some time, and he was warming up to the kids or whatever. And for me, I'm like, how hard is it to just say it when
Mm.
you walk in? And yeah,
Sean,
it's
why is that hard for you? Or tell me what that experience is like for you. So I'm assuming you're talking about in the morning. You guys wake up, and then
Yeah, well,
him greeting the
this
kids.
was
Yeah.
it's kind of fresh, so it's right on my mind because it was this morning.
Mm,
Yeah, and I walked in and I just sensed that she was already having a bad morning because she
hmm.
didn't sleep. Just tell the sense of the energy. So
Yeah.
when I walked to the bed, the kids were like the first ones to greet me because they weren't angry at me because they didn't sleep, and that was the energy I sensed from her. And so when the kids greet me, I'm greeting them back. And then before I could even like greet Jenny, she's like, "What am I, chopped liver?" And I was
Hmm.
like, "Babe, no, of course you're not chopped liver." But it was, and she was right. I didn't greet her first, so I failed in that regard. And I don't want to make excuses, but I guess my excuse was that I sensed her energy already kind of like pissed off at me because
Mm.
she didn't get good sleep. And I know it's not my fault, and I know she's not purposely trying to like say it's my fault, but she just didn't. As a mom, I get that there's going to be nights. Our youngest daughter is in a sleep regression, so she's waking up every two. Broken sleep
Oh,
is
that's
not easy
tough.
for anyone, and
Yeah.
I can attest to it because I'm a firefighter. So sometimes my sleeps are all messed up too, and it's
Yeah.
it's a hard thing to deal with. So um,
I want to, when you walk into a room and you feel that energy and you know instantly, okay, she hasn't slept, she's probably moody or whatever. Um, do you internalize that? What happens as far as like the internal process, or is it more like, okay, there's a part of me that wants to greet her, but there's also a part of me that wants to keep some distance. This is, like
yeah,
I don't
like
want to, yeah.
feel like I'm creeping in there slowly to.
Hmm.
I'm not just going to be like, "Hey, good morning."
Yeah.
It's very, I guess, methodical or like creeping on thin ice, in a sense.
Yes. And then
Yeah,
Jenny, you take that as, okay, he doesn't even see me, right? That ambivalence kind of thing, instead of him kind of coming in and giving you a hug or a greet or kiss or whatever.
yeah, I mean, I can name for me that it just digs at a wound inside me that makes me feel like I don't matter. I'm being ignored. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's no value in what I just did through the night, through all the nights since becoming a mama and getting pregnant. It's just really hard on the body. And so I see it in a way of like, this is my expectation and I can clearly name it, but I'm more curious as to what is stopping you from meeting me in that expectation.
Sean, is there anything else that is stopping you in meeting her there, other than you kind of just feeling it out?
like
Like, is there
generally,
resentment? Is there anger? Is there something that you guys are holding on to?
yeah, there may be, and if I
Yeah.
can be honest with it, and we
Yeah,
we
sure.
discussed this too, and it's uncomfortable for me to bring up because again, it sounds like I'm kind of whining or being like a little man. So I don't like talking about this too much, but there is like some sort of, it's not like competition, but part of me is
Mm,
like when I remember it from like when she was going to buy a salon or something. Like whenever she's doing something like is really propelling her forward, part of me feels like I'm being left behind.
mm.
that makes sense. Like, and I don't know if it's
Oh,
like
right.
still
Like
some of
in
like,
career, or describe that. What do you mean?
yeah, in career or even like self-development, career,
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
whole thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
she's when there's been instances where she's like really taken steps to move forward, both spiritually, emotionally, like self-development, career-wise.
Sure.
I feel like, holy fuck, I'm gonna be left behind here a little
Mm.
bit. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if it's like a sense of like abandonment issues or what,
But
but
there's a fear there.
there is a little bit of a fear, and
Sure.
it's almost like a sense of urgency within me, like, oh no, I'm not going to be able to get to do what I need to do to get to where I want to be. You know what I mean?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Instead of being a symbiotic kind of relationship where we bring each other up, I almost feel like if she's getting all this time and energy and effort to do what she needs to do to get where she's at, how am I going to get to where I'm at?
Yeah.
I
Jenny,
don't know
did
if
you
that
know
makes
this? Did you know this about Sean? That this is kind of happening inside a subtle. It seems like it's subtle, but it's there.
Yeah. Yeah, I am. I'm totally aware of it.
Yeah.
But the thing for me that I feel is like what the work I put into myself or what I'm creating for myself is, in my eyes, in my heart, is for our whole family. It's not to take
Mm-hmm.
away from Sean's ability. Like Sean knows, and you can
Mhm.
name that. I'm always positively reinforcing what I believe in him because I truly do believe in what he wants to create as well. But I think because Sean is such a provider by nature, he's such a problem solver, and he's really got that father masculine archetype ingrained with him where he wants to provide. But it's like when Sean says something like, when she gets all the time to do what she needs to do to advance in what she's doing, like I'm not doing anything extra that he can't do. And I think that's where we
Mm.
butt heads. It's like we
Right.
both have the same time in the day, and like he is lovingly choosing to carve out time for me and be with our kids when I need to do what I need to do. But also, I have that willingness for him too.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Sean takes on so much that his time management doesn't always go to the places that are going to A, project him in the way he envisions, and B, he like, and I could be wrong. I don't want to speak for you, but there's all those layers of like, um, fear and doubt that he might struggle with if he's good enough to do what he envisions to do, which he definitely is. But I
What's
think we all
the
have that.
Yeah, I think it's less about the logical stuff, like as far as how much time people have and what John can execute, what you're
Yeah.
executing. I think it's this kind of like in your body feeling that maybe stemming from false beliefs, wounds, childhood, your story, the feeling of being left behind, the feeling of flunking. You mentioned failure. I don't see
Mhm.
any of this as failure. I feel like we are stretching. Like there's no grade, right? There's no, and also growth is not linear. It's abstract and
Yeah,
all of it's layers, right? So
yeah.
um, I noticed that when you're talking, you're very hard on yourself. Failure, being left behind,
Mhm.
uh, fear of that. So partly this kind of maybe abandonment, but also you judging yourself as maybe you can't, or the kid that flunked kind of thing, right? And so
Yeah.
if you're feeling that, like if your body is feeling that, even though logically, you're smart, what's happening, but if the body's feeling that, maybe the behavior from that is caution. Like it might be hard for you to be open arms and give her a hug first thing in the morning with passion if your body is feeling left
Mm.
behind, rejected, that flunked. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It does. Yeah.
So if that's the case, what does your body need? What does not your mind, but what does kind of your body need to not feel left behind anymore?
I think it has less to do with her and more to
Yeah,
do with me.
yeah,
You know,
sure. So what
and
what
like
what
as
what what experience do you need to give yourself?
that's a good question,
So
John.
so think less about convincing because that's kind of logical. Think
Yeah.
more about your relationship with self, and kind of like under the umbrella of reparenting, reconditioning. What experiences do you need to give your body? And I'm not talking about experiences like you need to go on some kind of 5-day trip to Bali or anything, or maybe I don't know. But what experiences do you need to give yourself to remind yourself that you're not being left behind, that you're not being left at all, actually? Can you, in those moments when you feel, and this is what's hard for people because we're so logical, is to, and generalization, of course, I think more for men, dropping in, I feel the abandonment. I'm feeling like I'm being left behind. I know it's not true. I know it's my stuff. I'm going to work through it. And even though I feel this, I'm going to recondition myself by going out there, giving Jenny a hug, or whatever that looks like, to actually lay new tracks. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is like kind of acknowledge, be aware of the feeling, acknowledge it, and then kind of overcome it consciously.
Instead of reacting, instead of letting it have power over you and reacting from that place, because if feeling left behind is causing you to be ambivalent, eggshells, tiptoes, let me see what she does first, let me feel her out, right? And then she takes that as, okay, he's not seeing me again. So if you can get yourself to acknowledge the feeling and know that it's coming from your story, it's something you want to own, and it isn't really true. When you actually do give her the hug, the kiss, the good morning, and then what you get back from her is going to be what convinces your body that you're not being left behind. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, 100%.
And so we have to get this engine going, because it's going to take a lot of time. It's not like and then it's like and it doesn't matter who starts, both of you guys, like two pumping pistons. Going back to last week, making Jenny feel heard and seen. And listen, that's not all on you, right? Jenny has ownership in that too. Meaning the process I just said for you, Sean, Jenny should also be doing for herself in what she's going through. And then Sean, what you said about feeling, what is it, appreciated and acknowledged.
I said work that I do, but it's more, I kind of clearly define it a bit more as just like the effort, because sometimes what I do isn't always perfect, but it's the effort that I put in.
Sure.
Really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then this, like, as you were explaining that, like, it's the support, I guess, with the support, and it's reciprocal as it goes back. The support that I receive from her is going to kind of heal that wound of abandonment, that feeling that I'm going to be left behind.
Yeah. So what does that support look like? What do you mean by support? What is support? What is define support for you?
Well, I guess the first layer would be like to not be criticized for not seeing her. Like the not being criticized is gigantic, because every time I'm criticized, it does put me, like, if this is baseline, it drops me down.
Yeah. So real quick, criticism. So if you're attempting to do something, but it doesn't really meet Jenny's standards or expectations, and then she says, well, listen, I appreciate it, but it's not what I want, or whatever, then you instantly, then it's harder for you to execute, you're saying.
100%. It makes it exponentially harder. And I say criticism, it might be considered like feedback, you know what I mean?
Or just information, right.
Yeah.
Well, how do you guys know the difference? You guys have to be on the same page with that. How do you, because in Jenny's eyes, it may not be criticism, but then how you take it is criticism. And then, of course, now that dynamic is,
Can I speak here?
Right.
Yeah, of course.
Like, I want to acknowledge that we're not perfect. I know you do a lot for our family, like you do. And I can only imagine the type of pressure that a financial load would carry working full time. And then on top of that, like being in a relationship, being a father. But when he says criticism, and we have this opportunity and experience that we're working with you, for example, for me, like, I'm not expecting perfection, but for me, it has to be okay to say, hey, babe, like, you didn't say hi to me again. I just want to name that.
Yeah.
And I was hoping that we could work on that, because that's what we talked about. That to me is not criticism.
Yeah.
That is naming it so that it doesn't lead our life.
Sure.
It becomes the point of entry to shift our life.
So wait, Sean, so if she just said that in the way that she just said it, would that be criticism or?
No.
Okay, that wouldn't be.
That wouldn't be.
Yeah.
No. That was beautiful.
Wait, so what is Jenny saying that is not that? Do you know what I'm saying? That you do take as criticism? Is it her tone or what?
it's the tone is underlined, and then it's like, what am I, chopped liver? You're doing it again. You're not. I'm you're saying hi to everyone else before me.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts
Yeah.
on that, Jenny?
I mean, I guess I could be softer in that and like take some self responsibility and name like, I had a really tough sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Could you say hi to me first? It sounds so silly
It's
to
not
say that.
silly. It's not silly. It's a need. It's what you need right now.
Yeah, no, the need doesn't feel silly to me, but it feels silly that I have to ask for him to say hi
Well,
before he.
I don't know if the word silly. I think for you, the fact that you have to ask is making you more angry. You know what I'm saying? Like there might be something in you
maybe.
that's like, I shouldn't have to ask for this. This should come
Yeah,
with a
that
base
could.
model. This isn't, leather seats and sunroof and air conditioning. You should come in and say hi to me first because I'm the first one you see, or whatever. What you might have already that in your head, and then he doesn't meet that, and then then there's the collapse.
Yeah, I'm willing to do that. I'm definitely willing to do that. And like, yeah, I realized like it sounds funny. I want to be said hi to. I want to be acknowledged and validated. But for me, it's a bit of a symptom of a deeper wound that I have where I just, in saying that, in that delivery, to me, it encompasses like, I acknowledge you. I see you. Thank you for keeping our kids alive at night and feeding and staying up late and not sleeping. So that like I can go and do or be whatever I have to do at night, catch some rest, whatever. I know how important that is. Right. So of course I'm willing to try that. But I think where I get frustrated is when I have to do it like 3 times over, 4 times over. And that can happen because we can become complacent. It's just part of the process. Will I get frustrated? Yes. It's just.
Sorry, Amazon trucks in the background. You could hear that. Okay, go ahead. Okay. I heard you. It's yes, of course. As a single serving, you could totally do that. But having to, over and over or remind, that gets old, is what I'm hearing you saying.
Yeah, I just in my head when that happens, I'm like, really again? Like, why? And then I dig deeper. I go into my own storytelling, and I'm just like, what is in the way of him just doing this one thing? And I'm really in the practice of separating like myself from the narrative that likes to take over my inner critic, but it's not easy.
No, it's not easy. I could relate with what both of you guys are struggling with. So my partner and I just had this. I don't know if it was an argument, but this long conversation about attunement, and I'm definitely attunement, being in tune.
Okay, yeah.
And I, can be spacey at times, and there's jokes about me, constantly forgetting things, and she has her version of that. And then we got into this whole thing about what is expected, meaning what is on me. I should just be more attuned, at least work on that, and how much of it is something that she should actually ask for, so it would help me. And that is, that's subjective. I don't know if there's a right or wrong. I think it's going to be different for every couple, and I think you guys have to find out what that is, where you don't feel like a broken record, because it's going to get old. You're right. And Sean, there's a part of him that he has to be attuned, or at least try to be more aware, be more, notice when you are in rooms and acknowledge all that. And then how much of it is also something that you should just bluntly ask for, even though, like you said, it sounds silly, but yeah, I had a hard night last night. I didn't sleep. I need a hug. Like, how much of that is okay? How much of that is expected? You know what I'm saying? Like, you guys have to find where that line is. So, because what happens is, if you don't, people are going to set expectations. Those expectations aren't met, and then right after that, there's a subtle anger and resentment. Mm-hmm. And then once the anger and resentment's there, it's really hard to be compassionate. It's really hard to be the first one to go. It's really hard to, when there's anger and resentment is when people start playing chess with their relationship. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And then it's like, the energy is just not welcoming. And then it's, kind of like people just maneuvering via logic and not love and kindness kind of thing.
Yeah. When that sets in, I feel there's a reluctancy to want to help each other or support each other.
Yes, of course. It's like going back to our example. It's like if it's harder for me to work on being attuned if someone tells me I need to be attuned. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. But you guys have to decide what you are willing to own. And and even as I'm talking about this with my own story in the argument when we argued, I was very defensive, I think, and now I could take a breath and say, hey, you know what? Here are some things I do need to work on. For you guys, so bringing it back to the individuals. So, what are some things that you guys can kind of own to be on the same page, so that expectations don't fall and people aren't angry.
Mhm.
So instead of like Jenny, instead of telling Sean what you want from him, what are some things you can do? And then Sean, instead of telling Jenny how you want her to make you feel, what are some things that you can do under ownership?
What are some things I can do to help him understand me or to meet my expectations?
To help change the dynamic so it's not resentment that keeps on, becoming like the plaque of this relationship. It doesn't keep on building.
I feel like I'm pretty good at speaking my mind, and I don't know if that's like a positive thing or negative thing, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much more clear I could be with that because I really think it's important to.
No, I don't think it's with instruction. I think that I don't think of I would say for you, what is activating you and to follow that thread down. So when I think about ownership, I think about, of course, how you deliver messages, it's all part of it as well. But if you want to look deeper, we're talking about wounds and stuff, you feeling unseen, right?
Yeah.
Is that thematic in your story? That's a wound. That will make you reactive if you feel unseen. So what would be your piece in that isn't dependent on Sean?
I think that's just cultivating more trust within myself and
Mm-hmm.
being able to separate Sean's behavior or like in the moment not being able to meet my need from knowing that that is not a metric for what I bring to the table in this family, what I bring to the table as a mother, as a partner, and really separating that from like my instant reaction. And I know that's something that I could work on. I think that's always going to be something I'm invited to work on. But I feel like in cultivating that trust within myself, I'd be able to be less reactive towards Sean in the moment and be like, babe, you didn't say hi to me just now. And I just want to say that like that kind of stung, but I know it's not about me. So usually I feel like the criticisms we have upon each other behind those are desired behaviors. Like it's really about me, him not saying hi to me.
Yes.
Me not saying I appreciate you is not really about Sean. It's probably about me holding some sort of negative energy because I'm tired or because he didn't say hi and I didn't name it that morning. Like, but it's not about you. Is it ever about the other person? I don't know. I feel like it's
also
mostly
we could use the and. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Like both can exist as well. But so I'm not saying that it's about the other person, but I'm saying you can be tired and exhausted and need to respond instead of react and kind of self-soothe yourself. And you could also have a right to want your partner to hug you or kiss you or notice you in the room. That's okay too. Do you know what I'm saying?
Actually, something powerful just stood out when you said that. And you said self-soothe, and it kind of lit up my old patterns and maybe still patterns that I'm working through of codependency. Like not needing Sean to give me something in order to feel good inside myself and activating that within myself. So thank you for saying that because I think that's really important and something that I wasn't seeing before. And you're
Yes,
right.
so it's very important. Also, I, have struggled with codependency. I also swing toward anxious attachment. So, someone who also needs or would like or expects my partner to, jump on me when I open the door, say hi to me in the morning, like, show me you love me, I exist, give me compliments. And when that's not happening, one of the biggest things I've learned in this relationship is instead of asking for it or demanding it or thinking that she doesn't love me or is attracted to me, what's happening in me and how can I self-soothe that? And so a lot of
Yeah.
reparenting is, and that comes from me, I think growing up, Korean American, parents always gone, never gave me emotional milk, never gave me kind of love. They gave me designer jeans and a skateboard. But I didn't get a lot of emotional love from my parents. And I think because of that, as an adult, I demand it from my partner, you know?
Yeah.
Now, to a certain extent, it is a foundational need. I mean, we're in partnership to give each other, I think some of that. But when there is expectation, but when there is reactions, and when there is pointed fingers and all that, I think it's then you have to look at it and say, how can I self-soothe this? Because you're absolutely right, and the stuff that you're saying is correct. That it doesn't have to do with Sean. It has to do with you feeling lack of or undesired or unwanted, and then saying, well, he's the person that should be making me feel these things, and he's standing right there and he doesn't see me. And so then that blame. So then let me ask you this: what would self-soothing look like?
I think it's just coming back to my internal dialogue and reinforcing that
Yeah.
belief within myself that, like, it's okay, you're okay. This isn't a metric of his love for me. It's just a moment. It's just a moment, and I can sit with what's happening and not have to identify with it. Like, just witness the emotion coming up for me, the reaction, pause with it or acting from the reaction. If that
So
makes sense.
what you're talking about is great. That's exactly correct. The piece you're forgetting is it requires practice. I mean, well, you're not forgetting that. I'm sure you know that. But that's so to be kind to yourself, to know that, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do, but it's going to take time. It's going to take reps. It's not something that you just do over the weekend and suddenly you don't feel this codependency anymore.
Yeah.
I also feel like it's okay to let our partners know. We're not blaming them, but kind of let them in on where we're at, what we're experiencing. I talk a lot about doing life with our partners instead of around our partners or at our partners, right? So if you're reacting, you're doing life at your partner. If you are not sharing your internal process, you're doing life around your partner. If you are sharing struggles, vulnerability, transparency, and hey, this is what I'm experiencing, and here's what I'm going to own, then I feel like it makes people closer. It allows Sean to see what's happening, your internal, what's happening inside you, and what you're struggling with, and it's going to make him closer. It's going to be easier for him to hug you and hold you and say hi to you first if he knows what's happening inside. Do you know what I'm saying? And also for Sean too, like if Sean expresses to you, hey, this is what I'm struggling with. This is why I didn't hug you when I first woke up, because, I feel like I flunked, or I feel whatever is going on inside. It's really understanding the mechanics of how we are. And then there's room now for compassion. And you know what I'm saying? So when we don't understand, then we just react to that behavior. If we have a better look under the hood, we're like, oh, it's not personal. This is what was happening for you, and it's tied to that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sean, if Jenny is going to work on self-soothing, what would be something that you can work on?
I don't know if like self-confidence, but the belief that I'm worthy, then I'm not easily left behind.
Yeah.
That I'm.
And what would that look like for you to work on that?
I guess in a similar practice, to notice when feelings of like abandonment come up inside of me, or even feelings of like, I'm a failure, I'm not doing enough. That one comes up a lot. Like, I'm not doing
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah. Can I ask you something? Jenny,
Yeah.
can you say something to Sean about that? So, this whole idea that he's not doing enough, what is your response to that? And don't tell me, tell Sean.
You do a lot, a lot, a lot. And I sincerely appreciate everything you do. In my eyes, I've never met someone so absolutely devoted to being a father to our children the way you father them. So aware and like so thirsty to understand our children and the willingness to understand me. And even though we move through this really hard process and we're being naked and vulnerable, that's a lot. And I I hear you when you say you don't feel like you're doing enough, but trust me when I say I love you so much and you do everything for us. Everything. This is, I mean, it's amazing. It's all I've ever wanted. I don't expect perfection, and I hope you can find a way to give yourself more grace because I I appreciate so much how much you show up for us. I know, like I was just gonna
Well,
say I know you.
oh, sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I know you carry a lot. You've come with a lot. Like we all have so much deep down, and like me knowing what all that is, like I know it's hard. I do. So, like,
Jenny,
thank you.
can you say these three words? Maybe it's four. And then Sean, before you respond, I want you to tell me how it feels in your body. Okay. Turn to Sean and say, um, you are doing enough.
You are doing enough.
Sean, so how does that feel in your body? Don't defend it. Don't say, "Oh, yeah, but this." Just how does it feel? She just said you are doing enough.
It's like a release, like a bang.
Mm,
Like sometimes I feel so pent up, you know,
yeah.
and hearing those words is like a release of like all this. I'm holding back a fucking ton of water or whatever.
Mm,
Having that, whatever you just said, made me feel so good.
yeah.
You are doing enough so much. Do you believe that?
Not enough. So sometimes like I feel like I'm fucking gonna explode.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I shelter everyone from the shit that I have inside.
Mm,
Like these feelings of not being enough or I'm not doing enough for my
mm-hmm,
family.
mm-hmm,
And I just kind of like not block it out because I feel it, but I shelter them from it. I don't
mm-hmm,
want them to know
mm-hmm.
what I'm going through. And I guess it just makes it worse because I suffer in silence.
Yes,
And then
and it's not your children or partner's responsibility to make you feel enough. But I do
no,
think it's important that Jenny knows of what's happening inside and how you're feeling. Um, this whole thing of suffering in silence can be a virus to all relationships. And logically, you could say, "Well, why? It's my thing. I'm not telling anyone, so I'm not impacting anyone." But it leaks out. It leaks out in energy and action and behavior and all that. So um, yeah, I don't want you to suffer in silence, man. Jenny doesn't want you to. Um, so we know, and Jenny is not acting. She's telling you sincerely that you are enough. You're doing enough. The goal and your ownership is now to be on a journey for you to get there, for you to believe it. Just because we hear someone say it doesn't mean we believe it. Obviously, um, you don't believe that you are enough. You don't believe that you're doing enough. Those are also tied. I think that the doing and the internalization that we are, they're tied to each other. So um, you getting to a place, and this is of course have to do with your relationship with yourself, where you believe that, oh, I am doing enough for this family.
yeah,
You being pent up in the stuff that you carry, the suffering in silence, um, that has to stop, because man, you're just gonna like a pressure cooker, right? You're human. You're gonna explode, or shut down, right? Oh, it's like one way or the other, check
Yeah.
out or explode. And so, yes, it is your responsibility, but can you share some of that with your partner? Can you at least, you're not dumping on her, but you're checking in with her. You're expressing your state and kind of where you're at, what you're struggling with.
Yeah.
Is that okay, Jenny, for you, or does that feel like that would be a burden?
No, I absolutely welcome that.
Yeah.
I really do.
And
Yeah.
I know she would, like, and again, like, I guess for me, it's like setting and the state that we're both at for me to express myself in a healthy way is important. And I know she's fully capable of like listening, and
Yes.
that's all I need, from her.
And it's great that you have that safe space, but for you, again, going back to this idea of reps, it's you practicing that, because it's a muscle that you haven't used, if your default is suppressing and pushing things down, to express how you feel is going to feel harder.
Say what is coming up though, I guess, is that I'm battling with that part of me that feels like I shouldn't, I'm a man, I shouldn't have to,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I'm acting like a baby if I'm constantly trying to explain myself of why I'm not the best man I can be. You know what I mean? Like I'm acting like a little child.
Yeah,
So I'm battling that.
Yes. So that's conditioning. That's, patriarchy.
Yeah.
That's old blueprints.
Yeah.
That's
Totally.
toxic definitions of man. But
Yeah.
it's actually, the truth is the complete opposite. If you're able to express yourself and show yourself, that's being a real man.
Totally.
The baby,
And
the baby is to actually suffer in silence.
No, and you're 100% right. And consciously, I know this, and this is my own internal battle, is try to break that old paradigm that I have of what a man was taught to me, what was modeled for me.
Yes.
And I know, I consciously know that, and this is my fucking practice, and this is why.
And also, I wonder, if being a firefighter, I don't know what it's like in your locker rooms, but I'm sure there's, there's a bit of, I'm sure, in that world too. Just a lot of dudes and a lot of, whatever, posturing and definitions and, like, I hate the whole term man up, that kind of stuff. Men don't express themselves and quit being a baby, like kind of like all of that, I think, is damaging. And so, for you, I think the struggles of your marriage is going to be what causes you to cross that great divide from toxic masculinity to a healthy masculinity. So I think part of your relationship with yourself is going to be defining what a man looks like, which is all new.
Definitely.
And I think that's going to help the dynamic of the relationship. And also it's going to help Jenny ultimately feel more seen when you are more, okay, this is actually what a real man looks like. This is who I want to be. This is how I'm going to show up. I think that's going to ripple into seeing Jenny more, or making her feel more seen. I think it'll be the residue of it. Like, it's going to naturally ripple into that, even if you're not even intending to,
Yeah, absolutely. That's fucking beautiful. I love how it came around to this, because this is like a drive for me, is to reinvent what my vision of a man was.
Yeah.
Through how I was taught, through how I was modeled, which wasn't the greatest. My whole upbringing, through how I was raised, every fucking thing led to me to be the man I am, but now I can see the man I want to be. And I've changed a lot, but obviously I have tons of work still to go.
Yeah.
But I love what you said, like, and I'm on the same page as you, man. Like I said, like, I think vulnerability is a strength, and I still have old patterns to unravel, I guess.
Yeah. Not just you, many, many, many men. So, and usually this is kind of like what it takes for them to change, because who wants to change? No one wants to change, something has to be at stake, at risk, So, as we end, for you, that's and that's a journey, but I love the revelation that you had, that ultimately this isn't about Jenny or your marriage. It's actually about your relationship with yourself and definitions of man, right? That's talk about ownership, right? That's all your story. And then Jenny knowing how codependency and needing something from someone, whether that is a hug or a compliment or whatever, so you can feel more visible. How much of that is self-soothing? How much of that is you untangling, untying someone else and how they respond to you, to your self-worth? So this idea of self-soothing yourself, I think, it's a form of reparenting. So the work on that, and I think if you guys both do that, because that's your own individual work, you're gonna see it in the dynamic change so fast. I think you're gonna see Sean's gonna see a lot more. Sean's gonna see a lot less quote unquote criticism. Jenny's gonna feel a lot more safe and seen, and then they're gonna feed on each other, and then you're gonna wake up one day and Sean's gonna kick the kids aside and just grab you, kiss you on the face, and be like, "Oh, good morning," and you're gonna look at him and say, "This is my definition of a man." But this is just the beginning, right? I mean, these sessions, especially what we're doing, which is experimental, which I kind of feel like I'm doing more coaching than therapy. We snap back, and this week you come out of session and you're like, oh, okay, this is what I want to. This is where I want to run. And then Monday comes, Tuesday comes, and life happens, and you don't get sleep, and it's easy to snap back. So, be kind on yourselves, right? This is the first domino.
Definitely.
Yeah. Thank you for your time and this opportunity. I'm really grateful.
Yeah, of course, and thank you so much for guys. You guys have been so honest, and it's just so brave. I mean, all the couples that I've been doing this with, no one has been acknowledging that there's other people. They've just been honest, and it's making this I don't know, it's making this very kind of like a spiritual experience for me, because I know there's gonna be so many people who listen to this and being like, oh my God, I could relate. Not only that, but the dots that you guys connect in here, so many other people, and be like, oh, I have that same thing. That's where it must be coming from. And so you guys are going to be catalysts to other people, and so thank you for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time and your opportunity.
Yeah, of course. Please keep in touch. Email me at the least a week from now. Just let me know what's going on and how you guys are doing.
Will do.
Okay. We
Okay.
will.
Be well. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
We hang.
Yeah, because it's like I always have to wait until they hang up, or else we say our byes. It's like when you say bye to friends, but both of your cars are parked in the same location, so then you guys have to now awkwardly walk to the car together after you said your goodbyes. I get a lot of that here, unless the people hang up quickly. If they don't hang up, we're just kind of okay, bye, looking at each other. Anyway, again, wow, what a powerful session. As you were listening to this or watching this, what came up for you? How did you relate? I know for me, I could relate to both. I really can. I could relate to Jenny needing to self-soothe, and I could relate to tying my value and feeling desired to women, whoever I'm in a relationship with, and the expectation I put on them to feel that for me, right? I can relate to Sean's tracing of old definitions of man, and I feel for him being a firefighter, and I'm sure police officers and other careers where there are locker rooms, like obviously athletes, and any space where there's a lot of potential toxic masculinities and pressuring, and men telling other men to man up, like that, those kind of rooms. And it's changing, but it's hard to work in that space and then come home and try to be vulnerable, and on top of that, coming from either dad or an upbringing where you don't talk about your feelings, quit being a sissy, right? That whole thing. To change that is incredibly hard, and it's courageous. It's also, in the world today, very needed. So Sean, if you're listening to this or watching this, I applaud your courage, especially as a firefighter, especially as someone who interacts with other men. And I hope you're the one that's going to set the example, you know? Anyway, thank you for listening or watching. If you want to watch these episodes, they are first uploaded into YouTube and then a few weeks later sprinkled as podcast episodes. So if you're listening to this and you want these episodes early, just subscribe to my YouTube channel at The Angry Therapist. Be well.